Hi folks, Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the rewriting of history in the history educational curricula. It doesn't matter if it's in high school or early school for that matter, and certainly in advanced education. Even at PhD level sort of history studies, the amount of lies and untruths and fabrications are quite breathtaking in their extent. And it seems now that when it comes to the study of history, particularly white history, the lies are far more prevalent than the truths, which seems quite incredible. I mean, history, you're meant to look for facts. And to give you an idea how much things have changed is I remember doing I think it was fourth year high school, an essay on the French Revolution, and I got the date wrong for one of the key sort of points, if you like, as the French nation progressed to that bloody revolution. Was the meeting of the Estates General. This was sort of one of the parliamentary bodies, if you like, in France at the time, or political groupings, and they got together. The fact that they were getting together and meeting, as I recall, in a sports field, or was it a tennis court, something like that. Anyway, it was, and this has been seared into my consciousness. May 5th, 1789, and I'd said it was, for example, May 5th, 1790. Hardly an earth-shattering error, but this was sort of picked up by the teacher. Remember, this is only fourth year high school. Picked up by the teacher and got the red pen treatment of, "Hey, Billy Bob, what are you doing here? That's an unforgivable omission." And the teacher gave me a lecture on how, in the study of history, facts are critically important. You know, where there are no facts, then you sort of go to the first level balance of probability, and where it's sort of completely murky, you have to try and kind of join the dots. So, but the facts had to be there. And I was doing it. The history was at three. I think it was three levels, and I was doing the first level or the advanced level, and so there was a higher standard. So given the higher standard of or the A-level course, it was you had to. The teacher said, "Look, you're doing an A-level course here, so you can't do sloppy work. You have to produce the best work, because this is what's expected of you at what, again, high school, the elite level." Now, that was a sort of a lesson I well learnt and made a point of it, particularly in senior high school, or even for that matter in fourth year high school. I made a point of doing a lot of cross-referencing and checking. So just because your book, your first book one, historian A said that this was the situation, I'd go to another source and try and do a cross-reference. So I went to considerable lengths to make sure that I got the facts right. And once the facts were absolutely nailed down, then I would go, again, even as a high school student, I then go to looking at other factors that are involved, where the record keeping of the people in the day, or the amount of historical references maybe was minimal. So, but and I started to get the hang of joining some of the dots and filling in whatever gaps there may have been with assumptions, but being quite clear, those assumptions weren't necessarily accurate. They were on balance of probability. Probably what happened at the time. I made a point when I went to Paris for the first time of pacing out the various revolutionary places where the guillotine was set up, and various other sort of items of historical interest that I thought were relevant to, or in some way relevant to my understanding of history and the events around it. But looking at history the curriculum or the course studies and the literature today. And I was looking at it a couple of days ago, just giving a cursory glance to what was considered a master's level history course at one of the Australian universities. And it was really a holy fuck type moment, because the idea that facts and accuracy and historical accuracy and getting it straight, was really almost irrelevant. The idea was to get the victim vibe of you just, all you need to know is how evil white people were. That's the course. And I was quite taken aback by the amount of lies that were inherent in the course, lies through assumption. We all know, white people are fucking Nazis, so we need to start a study of history from that point. And we all know that white people exclusively and uniquely did slavery and no one else did, which confirms the fact that they're all Nazis. And we begin our study from that point. And the omission of and the lies are by absolute outright lies, and fuck knows there's plenty of them, but also by omission. As soon as you sort of say that only white people did slavery, or that it was uniquely the baddest and the worstest, mostest baddest, mostest Naziest type slavery, then straight away you're undermining the integrity of the historical studies. Now, it may be when you've studied it and carefully got all the facts and put them all together, you may conclude that white people, enslaving others was the worst type of slavery. Then back it up, make your argument, make your case, and put it out there, and just see if it can stand up to scrutiny and questioning and debate and examination and review. And if it does, fine, that's all good. I've got no problem with that. But the idea of entering into the historical studies from the premise of outrageous lies and the most grotesque untruths, and then only seeking, omitting facts, and then making one assumption upon another, and that line of well, it's not study, that line of fabrication, if you will, has become or passes for historical study today. So now this is not a uniquely Australian university thing. I went to have a look at a couple of courses in American universities, and I would argue it might even be a bit worse there, certainly in British universities. And so and the idea that white people are uniquely evil is something that infects the whole thing. So Nelson Mandela is a great hero, but Nelson Mandela was a terrorist who set off bomb blasts that killed people. Surely that would disqualify him from, this saintly halo. Well, no, because he was fighting Nazis, so he's allowed to do that. But what about the white person setting off bombs? Oh, no, that's bad. That's bad because white people are uniquely bad because they're Nazis. And so this ridiculous, absurd, childlike propaganda type thinking and rationale is running through really, or as far as I can tell, all historical studies. But it's even going into PhD level studies, which is intriguing, because you'd think that only the most inquiring minds and the higher IQ folks would be doing PhDs. But that's not so. The PhD has now become an affirmative action sort of children's playground, where black lesbians are being waved through in order to give prestige to people who have no academic achievement credentials. So to be a high achiever in terms of academic studies is in itself a Nazi thing. So by giving PhDs to IQ 80 black lesbians, then you're achieving equity, and you want those because those people then run around saying that white people are evil, which is part of your propaganda scam anyway. Now, some years ago, I was helping a few students who were doing more sociology history than straight history, but some of the essays they produced were diabolically bad. Not just sort of poor quality, or if a first year high school student had submitted that work to me, I'd have flunked it. And this is a university course, and then I'm just thinking of one girl who asked for some help, and so it was so bad that I thought, I can't tell her how bad it is. If I tell her that this is it, I've never seen crap this bad. This is an essay or an assignment essay she's doing for, or it might actually have been the thesis to finish off her course. But so I made some suggestions and red penned a few of the most glaring factual errors. But she was unmoved by that. Who cares? Facts. Who gives a shit? I've said it as it is. All white people are evil and black people are. That's it. That's all I really need to sort of say. The rest of it, the facts. Who cares if they're irrelevant? Who cares if this event happened 100 years before or 100 years later? Who gives a shit? The issue is Nazis. And so. So she didn't bother to correct those things and hand it in. And I thought at the time, this is, I don't know, years ago now, but I thought at the time she's going to flunk really badly. And no, she actually got like a credit or a distinction for this atrocious work. And it sort of brought me to the realization that as long as you keep pushing the thing, all white people are Nazis, you're going to get a good pass mark. If you try and sort of report the facts and do an essay that would be in the days of merit and quality work, an essay that would have held up very well. Today it's different. You do work like that, then you're a Nazi. But I guess it's an indication, as well as an indictment, of just how far the standards have fallen in so many areas of advanced education, or for that matter, high school education, that the standard that I was held to as a student in the fourth year of high school was not slightly higher, or a little bit higher, or somewhat higher, but vastly higher standard of expectation of quality work and accuracy, historical accuracy, important there, than a PhD student, history student, university is today. And that's how far things have fallen. And how else could you look at it other than viewing it as a tragedy of the first magnitude? You've been a Tacitus today, you're a Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.